Hello, everyone, and welcome to Season 2, Episode 9 of the Rewatch podcast presented by the Terrible Video Gamers Club. I'm your host, Tyler Schatz, who doesn't have a bell hanging around my neck letting others know what's going on. Joining me this fine recording session are one Stephen Howard,
who, like Shinji, also exists in a quantum state.
Amanda Howard,
who has made her peace and is always hoping someone will just water the flowers.
Mr. Josh Cox.
Super excited to hear all the theories, but I'm going to have to wait, I know.
And last but certainly never least, one Gary Delaney.
Following this show has become mental torture. Following the plot of this show has become mental torture. I think this is to match the emotional torture of the characters.
Not at all expecting you to go that way with your introduction there, Gary, but...
Tell us how you really feel.
Tell us
I
how
am
you really
enjoying,
feel.
like the day that before we podcast now, like the messages that start going back and forth are a series of
Right?
what the hell?
It's actually fantastic.
I'm starting to look forward to that. Because you guys always watch the episodes before me, so like I can judge from your messages just how much I need to like
It's only
myself.
recently it's gotten worse. it's like last couple episodes it was like, oh, I procrastinated. Oh yeah, this show's crazy. And then it's just like, what the hell is going on?
Exactly.
And I was sending messages before I even got to the end of episode 20. Like, I had pre-end of episode questions.
Pre-end of episode questions.
Yes.
Well, I hope you wrote them down, or at least remembering them, Gary, so we can discuss them. As we're here to continue our discussion on Neon Genesis Evangelion, starting off with episode 20, I believe, JC, is that correct?
Correct indeed. Episode 20, Weaving a Story 2, Oral Stage, or Of the Shape of Hearts and Humans. His physical form absorbed by EVA Unit 01, Shinji drifts through an introspective state while Ritsuko and NERV desperately attempt to recover him.
So, a lot of my notes, I'm just kind of like, as we talked about it, I'm just going, what the hell is going, what?
Yeah.
So I'm just writing a lot of stuff down here. I'm basically like, it's going to come up more when we talk about the next episode, but it feels like I'm kind of just like recapping the episode in my own notes here. But I will say, though, speaking of like recapping, though, that seemed like this is the first episode, though, we've actually had a recap, minus that middle episode that we had. This seems like the first episode that recapped the events of the end of the last episode specifically, too. You look confused and perplexed there, Steven.
No, I'm not. I'm
Like, the first 30 seconds is literally the last 30 seconds of the previous episode.
Yeah, I thought I clicked the wrong one at first.
Though there is one small little difference there. I don't know if everybody caught it, that whenever Kaji is looking up at it and talking about the awakening and liberation of Unit 01, he previously says, oh, the awakening and liberation. Seal's not going to like this. He adds a little bit like, not good. Seal's not going to like this. So it's more just, to me, a small little bit there that adds like, okay, Kaji is not a fan of this happening in the first place. It's not just a matter of like Seal not being a fan.
This is not the only time where I think there's flashbacks in this episode that I'm like, is this the same dialogue? So.
Oh, yep. Now I know what you're talking about for flashbacks there, but yeah. I mean, I'll just kind of throw it off with just the starting of the episode there. We then jump over to the Color Council, as we've so eloquently called them there, having that discussion, pretty for sure, minus Gendo there, where they're talking about, like, what has he been doing there and everything like that, and trying to figure out what has been going on over there with Gendo. So it's just, it seems like they're even like, for being this shadowy organization, they're even like wondering and losing control of the situation that's happening there.
Which, honestly, to me, seems a little strange that they are this perplexed that this is happening, because every single time we hit on them, they're all like, are you sure you have this in hand? Are you sure you have this in hand? Are you sure you have this in hand? And then finally they're like, guys, he does not have this shit in hand. Or if he does, he is not doing this for us. And it's more like a revelation that they have been kind of right all along to suspect Ikari, or not. What's his name? Commander Ikari. I'm saying
Endo
Commander
Ikari.
Ikari. Yeah, Endo. Yeah,
Gendo. Yeah.
Gendo. Thank you, Gendo.
Why don't you be better at knowing their names, Steven? Just
I-
saying.
So I had him. I had him in my head as Ikari, and as soon as I said it, I'm like, Shinji's last name is Ikari. No one's gonna know who I'm talking about. And then I
knew
then
who
I
you were
panicked.
talking about.
I panicked.
Honestly, Steven's usually pretty bad at like characters and TV shows names, so I'm actually impressed he's come this
Horrible.
far.
I'm genuinely horrible.
Like his preferred method is usually what's her name and what's his name. I saw what's his name over there, and he did that thing with the person. That's usually how it describes.
I try my best.
And
But
you've
no,
seen this before.
yeah, I have. But no, yeah,
Okay.
Seal is concerned. They are concerned.
Well, actually,
Sorry.
correct you there, going by our documentation that JC put together, it's actually the Human Instrumentality Council who is concerned. That's the color council there, as JC has notated on our official unofficial documentation.
Yes. Well, I believe it is.
Oh, they're a subset council of SEAL. I should
Yeah,
probably read the
I'm
note a
pretty
little bit
sure.
further.
It's like I was pulling it up right now. I'm like, I am pretty sure, but yeah. So notes, read them.
Yeah. Exactly there.
It was a throwaway line, and this is just as I said, the show just puts in complicated shit just to jerk off in the viewer's face. The damage to the Avas has gone beyond the Hayflick limit, and I just sitting there, I was like, they just made up a term, Hayflick limit.
Welcome to
didn't notice that
sci-fi,
one.
buddy.
I love it.
They make up terms all the time in sci-fi. I don't know why
Alright.
that's like strange.
Okay, Steven, is whatever Gary said an actual term, an actual thing?
A Hayflick limit? I don't fucking know.
If it's never mentioned again, and it's not
We'll look it up
based
right
on
now.
something in the real world, then it's just making up a word to fill your dialogue.
No, real.
It's a real thing.
It's the number
It is
of
a-
times a normal human cell can divide before it stops dividing and enters a senescent state. It's
I
just
rescind
the
that
limit on
previous
a
statement.
limit on cell replication based on
What
the
they're
shortening of the telomeres.
what they're basically saying is that Gary, you should just have listened in biology class.
Actually, Gary's the one that caught that. I didn't notice it. I would have just thought it was some made up word too.
That was on the first watch of the first episode, episode 20, which I pointed out before the episode. I took way too many notes on episode 20. I should have just stepped back and set the pen down because too much stuff is going on to take notes.
Actually,
the first watch through, you just
maybe
have to walk away.
Real quick, for those and it's not JC and myself, we've both seen this before. For the rest of you three who are watching this for the first time, how do you watch this? These two episodes were massively deep. How do you actually watch these? What's your way of doing it, Tyler?
So, as I stated, I think before the podcast started, I watch these episodes twice here. I try to, I usually lately here have been catching myself watching them almost as soon as I can after we finish our podcast. But I like to watch everything once with no notes or anything like that, to basically just be an observer, to take in the whole episode and everything like that. And then I'll go back and watch it sometime closer to the podcast recording to then start documenting notes and everything like that, to watch it a little bit more thoroughly.
I was going through on the first pass to take the initial notes of hey, this is weird. What's going on? And then if I do a rewatch, I have been doing more and more. Then I'm kind of taking the knowledge that you gain by the end of the episode and trying to apply that to explain the logic of the beginning of the episode. And I gained absolutely no notes on the second watch of either of these. I very, very little notes. Like, if anything, it deepens the conspiracy theories slightly. Like, that's literally all I gain on a second watch. Just like confirmation that my conspiracy theories are slightly more accurate.
As time has gone on with these, like in the beginning, I used to watch these episodes with Steven, and I would pause constantly to take my notes so that I wouldn't miss anything, because you really gotta be watching the screen. You can't just look down and listen to it. And then as time has gone on, I've been watching these at work, and I gotta be careful of that because Steven had to text me this time and be like, "Don't watch this at work. It might be if someone sees over your shoulder or something."
No, I think the exact text that I sent you was, "Be careful of this next episode when you watch it at work. There is nudity involved."
All right, so he's like, "Don't watch it in the break room," and I was like, "Okay, got it. Going in the car." But when I watch on my phone, I don't take notes because I'm already on my phone. Well, that's been annoying me lately in the last couple podcasts. So today, I pulled out a giant sticky note and was taking notes with a pen and paper. This old-fashioned barbaric method, whereas before I'm just taking. See, look at you
Oh, a
guys.
journal, fucking journal.
I have,
Look at
I have
it,
another
classy
Word
ass.
I have
document I just
special
have to.
notebooks just for this podcast here, basically.
Aww, that's nice.
I expect those to be like, you have all of your comic books like lined up perfectly. I expect all of these notebooks to be lined up like a serial killer.
Yep. Yep. Starting from season 7, episode 4 of Game of Thrones, there is when I started documenting stuff in this book.
Nice. Yeah, because I mean, I don't write near as fast as I can type, and when I do write fast, it's not very legible. So my notes here, honestly, I'm really irritated at rereading these because they're messy, and I'm like, I will get over it. But I'm even rereading like the first one, and I'm like, I don't even know what I meant by that note.
Yeah, I'll take notes on the first watch through, and on the second watch through, only chronological order of the notes helps me understand what the hell, like, because sometimes you're like, I'm trying not to hit pause every 5 seconds. This episode, I literally went through frame by frame in the seizure fucking dream, and that's why I mentioned a message that I sent to the group before I got to the end of the episode. It was, who is this character from the seizure dream? And JC confirmed that it was gonna pronunciation. Asuka. Thank you.
There you go.
I was gonna pronunciation just to check, but yes.
See, because I actually find that very interesting for you guys, because when I first went through this, obviously I did not have the complication of having to remember this the next day. And so I just watched this and it was just like sitting there going, what the? Because for everyone's reference, the first time I watched this through, funnily enough, at least when I got to these episodes, I watched the first episodes when I was much younger, but when I got to these episodes was when my child was born, and I was out during the middle of the night feeding her a bottle, and this is all happening. I'm sitting here going, what is going on right now? Just
This is not an
absolutely.
appropriate show for children.
Well, fun fact,
You know, things
when they
that
are
you shouldn't watch at work. Like, I was very happy that my significant other wasn't awake or in the room when I was watching it, because I was just like, this is not.
You don't want
like,
her walking in and seeing 3 girls just show their chests to you? No,
Just
not
turn
a
to
fan.
her and say, "Do you want to become one with me, mind, body, and soul?"
This is
It'll
why it's
feel really,
actually been
really
easier
good.
for me to just watch it on my breaks at work, because at home, like, I don't. If she comes in and she sees the screen's on, she's gonna want to come look at it. So I can't watch it around her, and she's awake, I'm awake, you know.
When I was watching it, she was 3 months old, so she wasn't going to watch. I
Yeah.
don't know, JC, when you were able to watch these, but I didn't have to take notes for these. I just got to experience them, and so I don't know if it's with you guys having to remember it, if it's what it feels like to actually experience these episodes.
I can't imagine watching this show without replay or the ability, like, without syndication. Like, if you just had to watch
buddy.
this once and never,
Oh,
like,
buddy.
or to see the episodes out of order, like
what you had to do in the 90s and the
yeah, this
aughts.
seems like a
Yeah.
like, I'm surprised the show didn't get canceled immediately, because it so much is built on a framework of the last episode and 2 episodes in the future of, like, yeah. But then again, this wasn't made in the US. Everything gets canceled in the US unless it's got certain criteria. unless there's crime in it, unless there's crime scene investigation, then the U.S. will mop it up. Yes. Anyway, that was one of my notes. Is like this would be completely confusing if you didn't have other episodes for context. But did anyone have any notes before the fever dream? I had a couple notes before the.
Yeah, I had, I guess,
Yeah.
one real quick one
Okay,
that I
just-
had right off the bat. Unit 01 is fucking creepy. It is creepy as shit,
Yeah.
man. Those teeth, that just the big freaking smile and the eye showing.
No,
It is.
he's just having a bad day. He's fine.
He's having something, all right. I saw somewhere before that if you're a graphic artist and you want to make your character look extra creepy, you put extra shade into the teeth to make every single tooth defined. And if you look at that IFA, every single tooth is very defined. Sorry, go ahead, Tyler.
I was gonna say, yeah, too. It was like interesting to see it all bandaged up, and I couldn't tell like that, like a bandage, or are they just throwing some sheet metal on this thing here?
Magic totems to keep him down.
Yeah,
Okay.
How did my first note or second note? I guess my first note. I don't know what I meant by that one, but my second note was, how did they get it back? Just did I miss something?
they threw down some angel meat, like in a little cheesy path there. There was a giant box with a twig.
Elephant tranquilizer, I hear.
Right, like the last thing we see is this like horrifying. He's eating the angel, and then next there he's back in his thing, and I'm like, we missed something. Did he just come back like a good
how do you-
dog? I don't understand.
How do you put that back in the box? Like the
Right.
general public has seen this. You
I
can't
thought
put
that was,
back
like,
in the box.
Unleashed, and instead he comes back. I was like, well, maybe you guys don't have a problem after all, honestly.
Yeah, because I think it's Hyuga that Masato's talking to talks about like the S2 drive is in an inert state. There's no power happening, so we should be safe. So presumably it like stopped being fully awake and went back to being a semi-inactive state. But then, as Masato says, like we've already seen it move 3 times with it being in a quote unquote inert state. So I don't really care. Like make sure the restraints are in place.
I think, yeah, I agree with that entirely. It's I think that it lost power at some point. Probably just took a nap after having a nice meal, but then came back and well, I'm not going to remember that other character's name, but says that to Masato, and I think at one point she says, "Oh yeah, but
Hyuga.
Hyuga says that to Masato, and Hyuga makes the joke, it's kind of like you, right?" And she's just like, "No, man, not the time for jokes. No." And he actually apologized. He's like, "I'm sorry. My bad."
Any other
Right.
notes? Others, I had a couple random catches.
I thought it
Oh.
was interesting that they kept on noting how the backup control system is like not just an inferior copy, but like it feels wrong, it feels off. I felt like they stressed that a lot, and then we didn't hear anything more about that, but I imagine that's going to come up in the future. On the other hand, maybe I'm thinking too much into that. I mean, you put me at a different computer station, and I'm like, dude, everything's wrong, everything's different. I don't like how anything's set up here.
Somebody put the toolbar on the top of the screen.
The fonts are wrong, like the lighting setup is messed up.
Tyler.
I was gonna say here too. There was a scene before Gary's Shinji flashback there.
There's a lot of scenes before that flashback.
I don't know if this was supposed to be there to indicate. So basically, it's when Mitsuko and Ritsuko were having that discussion in front of Unit 01 in the shadow. Like they were in the shadow, the Evangelions in the background. You can hear a heartbeat in the background there. So I'm sitting here wondering, like, is that like to add tension to the scene, or is it like we're silently hearing Unit 1's heartbeat in the background there?
It's a great question.
We'll have to keep watching, I'm sure, to find out.
I feel
So
like
I
there were
guess
some knowing smiles on a couple people here, so I think that was probably a pretty good notice of yours to.
No.
I smiled at the because I
Yeah.
hadn't actually picked up on that, and so Admittedly, the way I'm watching these is at work during random breaks and stuff. So I'm listening through a pair of terrible Google Pixel earbuds or whatever. So all the nuance in the audio is completely lost on me.
Except for the crickets.
Oh yeah, there's no
Hey,
nuance. in
leave the cicadas around.
cicadas.
Leave the cicadas out of this. I'm going to make one of those sound buttons that we have purely at the cicadas, and I'm going to
Yeah.
play it at every chance I get.
Yeah, I'm gonna test the limits of how long one of those sounds can be. Just
I think it's about
I
like
noticed-
59 seconds. Yeah.
I think it's about
I
20
noticed
seconds or
them-
so.
Yeah, I noticed them in one of the, and I started about to write it down, and I was like, no, one of those guys will mention it. I don't need to.
I didn't notice any cicadas. I must black them out now.
They were there. They were there.
So
One of
that's what you can use as like any kind of distraction noise for Gary, and he just won't notice anything.
There you go. I did think it was interesting that Kaji, when they talked about, oh yeah, we have someone with a bell on. Well, we may need to make sure that bell works next time. And Kaji is a spy. Kaji's not only a spy for the fucking government, for like the UN. He's also a spy apparently for SEAL. Like, how many groups is this guy a spy for at this point in time? Like, he's not a triple agent. He's not even a quadruple agent. He's like, I don't even think he has any loyalties or allegiances at this point. He just does what he feels.
Yeah,
Gary.
throughout all of these episodes, I don't know if it's really a jump that, like, I don't know who the hell Kaji works for anymore. I thought that maybe he worked for Gendo, like, because he just there's so many conversations he has with a nameless, faceless entity on the other end, and I thought it was maybe Gendo. I thought it was
I want to hear a conspiracy theory. Who do you think he works for?
Professor Fuyutsuki.
Well, you'll see.
There you go. Well done.
Who honestly I forgot
Very
existed.
natural.
Like, I just thought he was a background character. So
Did you really?
Not
He's like the
until-
second in charge.
Yeah, he's awesome.
yeah, but everybody needs a number two. Nobody,
Yeah.
any Bond villain needs a number two. They don't need any major plot.
He's in the opening credits.
You mean the song that I hit skip on?
Oh
every
yeah, that
single
one.
episode?
That one. I can't believe you hit
Yes.
skip on it. It is on my running playlist. I run to that. So the fact that you skip it is hurtful to me right here.
Okay, I actually do skip it as well, Stephen, when I'm trying to watch it for the podcast. It is still on my running playlist. Because I got stuff to do, places to be, only so much break time.
Episode 21, it was it
Mhm.
wasn't right at the beginning, so the
Mhm.
first time through I couldn't find the skip button, so I had to
So you had to listen to it.
But I
And
do
you
think
didn't
it's
notice Professor how did you just pronounce that? Kenyutsuki, right? Did I
Fuyutsuki.
get it?
Fuyutsuki.
Fuyutsuki. Oh, I was so close.
No, you said Ken Yutsuki. That's nowhere near close.
I was very close.
So yes, I don't know who the hell Kaji is. I don't know who he works for. Like, he's just an enigma. He's like, as I still say, like the most like straightforward character in the show, because you already know he's a spy. You already know he's a womanizer. Like, he's surface level. I can get on board with that. Tyler.
I was going to just jump around to another point because I don't even know how to pick up off of what Gary just said there. The last point I think to really talk about before moving on to, I'm guessing Gary's going to tell us frame by frame what happened in the Flash scene there, was Asuka being upset and saddened that Shinji apparently stole the show from her or whatever. So
I saw that too. That was weird.
Yeah. Upset
Is
about
it?
being upstaged is the word I saw.
yeah,
Is it weird?
It's definitely not weird for
Not
her,
for
Gary,
her.
because that is her.
Well, I mean, she's not a nice person, but like even your friend, your coworker just got like eaten by their work machinery, like emotions other than like they upstaged me, unless she secretly wants to be merged with the evil robot system. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, because even in the Magma Diver episode, she's more than happy to go ahead and sacrifice herself for the mission. She's shown that in multiple episodes. So yeah, this is if Shinji has died saving Nerve HQ, then that's the ultimate glory. That's the Eva equivalent to going into Valhalla. Like, hey, you died for a glorious purpose. Here you go. So yeah, she's pissed at herself for failing, and then also pissed that someone else has the glory that she couldn't achieve.
I think that it also, at one point in one of these episodes, she straight up says, "Why do you?" It's Ray asking her, "Why do you pilot the Evas? For glory, of course, or for what is it? What does she say? This doesn't say for glory. It's for some other word similar to glory. It's for people's apprehension or whatever, of course." And
Yeah, so Ray asks if Asuka pilots it for other people's praise, essentially, and she says no, for my own. So
there you
she's
go.
just piloting it for herself. Yep.
But she has to. That's even, I mean, worse at that point. You have to complete yourself in your own mind. Then you have to complete that logical circuit there. And if you don't, who are you? So you're gonna have a mental breakdown at that point, right? Or maybe at least. She's obviously thrown everything in her room around. She's had a fit. She's had an explosion of everything because no matter what she does, Shinji keeps one-upping her in this one thing where she has convinced herself that is who she is. And when you convince yourself that is who you are, and suddenly someone's better at it than you, then who are you? It's like people who say, well, I'm going to say it's like people who base their entire personality off of being the smartest person in the room. The second you step into a room with a smarter person, who are you? Gary is. I think Gary is implying
I
something
pointed
here.
at you, Steven. Unfortunately, I pointed a direction on my screen, but I realized based on each of our own podcast screens, we're all in different places on the
We're just
Brady
doing a whole
Bunch.
Yeah,
Brady Bunch thing. Yeah,
JC.
exactly. Yeah.
Gary, it was actually perfect on mine, and I instantly knew what you meant anyway, and it was beautiful.
Oh, yes. I don't know. It's still just so crazy because she has just such a disregard for human life that, like, your friend is dead, and you're like, why can't I be dead? And it's like, whoa. Like, honestly, all the Ava pilots are sociopaths. Like,
Yeah.
Toji did it for his sister. That is like the most surface level understandable. Like,
And now look at him.
Shinji is doing it for his father's approval. Ray is soulless, and Ahsoka just wants to be queen of the world. Asuka.
And
I-
damn it, I was going to make a Star Wars joke quickly.
Yeah. I will agree with you. If we're going to do an agreement, I will do one agreement with Gary. And that agreement is that I do think that in their own way, every single one of the Eva pilots is a sociopath. They all have their eccentricities. They can't seem to connect to anyone on the outside world in different ways, whether it be Rey just not wanting to connect with anyone, Shinji somehow just unable to understand that people may want to connect with him, or Asuka didn't care that anyone wants to connect with him. They're all in their own separate way sociopath. I think we've talked about that several times.
My last note before the fever dream is that it was I'm sure it's a throwaway line. Ava is a human, but without a will. So that's why there's a pilot, is to give the Ava a will. And I'm watching that. I was like, I'm sure that the people who've seen this show before understand more. But I was just like, I think they're trying to, like, lead breadcrumbs or just talk down to the audience because nobody knows what the hell's going on. So
I had
anyway,
one more note that Ray was saw the ceiling again. She's still alive.
Ray saw
Are
the
we-
ceiling.
Yeah, it's in that same hospital room that Shinji liked to wake up in with the ceiling, the same ceiling, strange ceiling, which I feel like can't be so strange anymore. They've seen it so many times now.
Yeah, next time I have
Sure,
to go
they
to the
have that.
hospital,
own assigned room.
I was gonna say, next time I have to go to the hospital or rush to the ER room, Amanda, I expect you to make sure I go to a hospital room with that sort of ceiling, so I can just wake up and just go, this shit again.
Excuse me, nurses, can we turn on all the lights, please? Like, as many lights as we can. Bring more in, actually.
I'm surprised that nobody
doesn't want to sleep with the lights off. No, it is in his last will and testament. He must have all of the lights on at all times.
It's just the Cicada music can play. He really wants that. Just crank it up to 50. I am really I am surprised that no one. We brought it up in maybe JC's recap of the episode, but nobody brings up the fact that they say Shinji has been assimilated to Unit fucking 1. Like, that's pretty big news. Like, how does that shit happen?
We haven't gotten there yet, Steven.
Yes, they've already said it, Amanda.
Oh, I'm just saying, like, look, I'm just sitting there waiting for somebody to tell me that it's gonna be fine and we can pull them out because there's still multiple episodes. So I'm not gonna lie, I was like assuming something was gonna happen, that he was
Fair.
fine. But I did write down, oh my gosh, is Shinji soup? I was trying to write some
Primordial soup even, so, yeah.
shorthand to be fair, but yes, they called it something like that. Primordial soup. And then they're like, oh yeah, he's been broken down into all these little molecule or his own basic. And I was like,
Quantum
oh my
state.
god, like he's literally been broken. He's dead. He's dead. How are you gonna fix this, guys?
His ego boundary got broken.
Now,
Right?
can something be said about any person other than, hey, your ego was enough to keep you in pieces even when your body wasn't?
Hey, if you've watched Full Metal Alchemist, you know that can save the world.
But like, Shinji is not the person you think of when you think of ego.
We'll have a small point of order before we get into a little bit more there. The discussion between Ritsuko and Masato about the Evas and human will. She's saying that Masato says, basically challenges Ritsuko, saying that they just copied the creature from the Antarctic in making the Eva. And then Ritsuko says, no, they're not just a simple copy. These have been given a human will. So the Evas have a human will somehow. And that's the difference between the angel that was found in the Antarctic. They don't really expand on that any further, I don't think.
Nope.
So, yeah.
Just
It's very fun.
picked out the human will copy at the store and downloaded it in.
Everyone says you need to go get a will sometime before you're a certain age. So.
That's what that's about.
All right, Gary, I think this probably leads us into you telling us about the fever dream that you probably stopped scene by scene by scene to tell us about. So the floor is yours.
Conspiracy theory. The whole fever dream is not from Shinji's point of view. It's from the Eva's point of view.
Mm.
Because
Honestly,
it says these people make up my world. Oh, sorry, Amanda.
No, it's fine. I thought it was a rather reasonable conspiracy theory for you.
That's what I was going to say. Gary, is that a conspiracy theory or is that like just a legitimate thing you're saying?
He said it. I'm putting it on a list.
I don't think that unless you really stop to think about or slowed it down frame by frame, that you would realize that it's like, how did I wrote it down somewhere? Ugh, my notes are such a mess. These people make up my world. Yeah, and then it goes frame by frame and shows all of his friends. Mitsuko, Asuka, nerdy friend, jock friend, Rei, Ahsoka, scientist lady, class rep, Masato, Rei. Photo that I found out later is Asuka, nerdy friend, jock friend, class rep, Masato, Kozo Fuyutsuki, who on the when I was writing all these notes, I said like, this doesn't make sense because he's just Gendo's second in command. Like, why does this person make sense to Shinji? And it didn't. That's what started my like, this is not really Shinji. Nerdy friend, jock friend, scientist lady, different operations guy, Number 1, Toji, nerdy friend, Misato, different operations guy. Number 2, operation guy that is not Kaji, scientist lady.
Not Kaji guy. Yes.
Operations guy that's not Kaji, Ray with an eye patch, the whole class,
Ray with an eye patch.
Kozo Fuyutsuki, Ray, Ahsoka.
It gets better
All right,
every
all right,
time.
all right.
Different guy number 1, Ray. Anyway, like it's just all these flashes, and as I said, I should have just watched the whole episode and then taken notes, because on the watch of all these little scenes, I noticed, oh, well, Gendo's not in this list of people that make up his world. Also,
Ooh.
it's
That's a
whole bunch of
fantastic
flashes of
observation.
It
other
really is.
people, and then it's approximately 25 photos in a row of just Shinji. Did anyone else catch that? It goes lots and lots of friends, and then it's just Shinji for 25 frames.
I did not count, but yes, I got the impression.
Nothing you said was in my notes.
So the exact words are, what is this? Who are these people? I know these people. People who know me. This is everyone in the world. This is everyone who makes up my world, is after they show the pictures of Shinji. So that's why I still think it's the Eva that's actually showing these pictures. And maybe it's a dialogue between the two. And then they show enemies, which are the Evas. And then Gendo and running away from his mother. Oh, here's a note that I think is completely out of context. Is on that day I ran away from my father and mother. So Shinji ran away before his mother died, which is really confusing and might just be a mislead. Yeah, then we jump out of the delusion. Anyway, JC.
I'll go ahead. I read it as one that this is a Shinji dream, because I would think that the Eva would also have Gendo as part of the people who make up my world, because we know that the Eva is reacting to Gendo, or at least Gendo believes that the Eva is reacting to him based on previous episodes. Like, oh, she's refusing me, it's refusing me, whatever it is. So if we're just purely basing it off of who is pictured in this people that make up my world, I would say that doesn't necessarily disqualify Shinji versus the Eva one way or the other to me.
Okay. I, on a rewatch, thought about it. I was like, how many times did Shinji run into Kozo Fuyutsuki? How many times did he run into all of these NERV agents? Like, because all the other people, the other Eva pilots make sense, but like all these NERV employees don't make sense for being like a friend of Shinji. I think what it is if you're the Eva, like these are all the people who work at NERV who care about the Evas, and then it's like Gendo just hates the Evas. He's a true enemy of the Evas. Steven.
While I am not going to say that your theory is a bad theory, because that's actually, you put fantastic thought behind it. I think that is a fantastic theory, to be entirely honest. I will also say that Shinji is at the base training all the time. He will run into these operators of these machines all the time. And he will run into the second in command all the time, especially because his dad wants shit to do with him. So he's going to have to talk to second in command. So I would think he'd interact with them through them. That being said, I think your theory is entirely legitimate and valid.
That he wouldn't consider the NERV employees to be friends, or maybe
Yeah, you could.
that
I
acknowledge
could.
his value. I don't know.
Yeah, you could. I consider people at work to be my friends. I mean, literally, how do you think I got in this podcast eventually, right?
I would say it doesn't say like, oh, hey, these are all of my friends. It's these are the people I know, the people who know me.
Oh yeah.
So like, I've got acquaintances who are people I know and people who know me, and I'm not gonna say like, yep, they're my friends.
He's got friends in low places.
Yes. And then they jump out of the dream. That was the other thing on rewatching this and taking notes, is that it was really the realization that I went into the fever dream and you came out and you followed Ritsuko's conversations, and you're like, oh, and then you like dive back into the fever dream. So I missed that on the initial watch. But on the second watch after seeing the next episode, Ritsuko says, hey, we should be able to pull out this person's soul. We've done this before 10 years ago, and so perhaps this happened.
Correction. It did not happen 10 years ago. They tried it 10 years ago. I want to make that's a very important
failed. They
correction.
tried it 10 years ago.
Yeah, exactly.
Failed.
Yes.
Which gets into a larger theory about things that are in the next episode.
I'll begin to make the tally mark. Yeah.
I will say during that entire fever dream, real quick, just not to super get you off your track, one of the things that really interested me was he starts questioning, doubling down again, why are the angels the enemy? Well, what is the reason for them being the enemy? Is there some sort of impetus? Well, it gets down to, well, they're attacking us. Because they're attacking us, they are inherently the enemy. And there's no much, and he starts thinking, well, is that the only reason behind it? Should I start thinking about this more? Then he starts double questioning himself, and it goes kind of backwards onto that. But this isn't the first time that he's questioned, why are the angels attacking us? And are they really the enemy? And I think it's interesting that during his Eva fever dream, he also, and it was actually, it was during Eva fever dream that this is where he gets that kind of thought process going.
Also, the early part of the dream looked like an ocean, like imagine ice caps. So I thought maybe that was the Eva crashing in Antarctica or whatever. I don't know I still don't understand fully the science behind the Evas. So JC.
The symbology of the beach and waves is something that I had technically noticed before, but I hadn't really thought about until this rewatch. And I feel like every time Shinji's thinking about it, he sees the beach, and sometimes it's parts of the sand are becoming surreal. Sometimes the water is weird, but it's always his perspective. I feel like is looking from the beach into the water, and then whenever it's something unknown, something's different. What is this? And he's not sure about what it is, and I was trying to figure out what it is. It looks like kind of blue with a lot of just darkness underneath it, and I think now kind of my perspective is that that's something underneath the water. That's something kind of lurking below, and so that's the perspective of some other viewpoint, some other entity that's kind of interacting with it, and that's his sensation of what that is. And so it's just an extra part that I hadn't considered until now, but I'm curious y'all's thoughts on what those might represent.
So the only quibble I have with that is I felt like when you think he's looking into the water, into the deep of the water, how it felt to me is that he is underwater and looking out. So to me, it felt like he is drowning. He doesn't know what it is. He doesn't know what's happening. He doesn't know how to process it. And so he is underwater. And that's how I took that.
The scene is definitely designed to make you feel uneasy. It's not like...
I don't think there's anything about both these episodes that makes you to make you feel at home. There is nothing to make you feel
bad
comfortable.
News if you're looking to feel comfortable and easy for the rest of the show.
Well, I was looking for imagine you thought of what the next episode was after, oh my god, the Evas are like monsters on the inside. You're like, oh well, maybe I'll explain next episode, like how are they monsters? Nope. Like, we're gonna go into like a Shinji nightmare fuel of like being trapped inside the Eva.
I mean, that kind of makes sense though, right? Like you wouldn't, maybe that's fan service if you just explain exactly what happened in the next episode, but in any sort of reality, that wouldn't be the case.
Here's how I would have directed it.
Okay.
Right.
I would have allowed the conversation to happen Tarantino style, where both he's telling the fever dream to Misato and experiencing it, and as he's having conversations, you never know whether it's part of the dream or part of reality, because that's actually some of the mind bending of this, especially this next part, where you get conversations between Ray and himself, where like, I don't know if these were the original conversations. I think they were slightly altered, but
They were, yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, it's just structurally the way that this whole thing flows to me. I really like the way that it's presented because to me it's like Shinji's mind has essentially it's lost its physical form. So now it's like if your physical manifestation was just tied to how rapid fire your brain is and processes information, jumps from topic to topic, and doesn't really finish a thought necessarily before something else comes in and takes over, and now you're thinking about that. It's to me it flows in a similar sort of way to the way that at least my brain works and the way that it can go from topic to topic. So I enjoyed the way that it flows. It is confusing. It's hard to follow sometimes, but to me it's also realistic, for lack of a better word. It's believable that that's how your mind might go if you are completely detached from a physical body at that point.
I would totally agree with that. Honestly, that made well, it didn't necessarily make sense what each scene was. It made sense in that, like, he's literally falling apart, literally not altogether. I did think it was interesting. I wanted to note down that um he when he was debating like what's is this my enemy? Why are they my enemy? He finally did say anything that threatens me is my enemy.
Does, yeah. And while he's saying that, he starts thinking about a Commander Ikari, which I think is
Mhm.
poignant. I will say real quick, just to emphasize the point about him being dissolved and everything being maybe non-linear during this fever dream, it does say he's in a quantum state. And in a quantum state, things are not linear. They don't have to be exactly linear. That's not what.
Ooh.
So I'm not exactly sure that's exactly what they meant, but
For more on quantum states, you should play Outer Wilds, Stephen.
I think there was a subtle nudge there. I don't know if it was.
I also noticed, I mean, this wasn't from Shinji, but I think it was Ritsuko who was like, he doesn't know if he wants to come back. Like, that was
Mhm.
also something. He wasn't. He didn't know.
Well,
Wasn't
then I
sure.
think that's right before, and I don't want to step on Gary's toes. If you have more question, or if you have more stuff about
I
this, Gary.
don't. Literally, it goes
Okay.
to like the weird, like
Yeah, the sexual part. And
yes.
I think that's that. So this is actually the part that I warned Amanda about, and it's basically three of the women that Shinji know basically just showing their tits to um, Shinji and saying, "Be with me. It'll be the best feeling you've ever had. Become one with me," sort of thing. And it's really kind of weird. And I think that it's interesting because it feels like something's trying to entice Shinji to stay. And the first thing to go to for a 14-year-old boy is he probably has a boner, in terms in Gary's words, boners. Um, and
I'm
it's
offended that you
so
put words in my mouth.
The official quote for the
so
podcast: "Boners
yes,
dash Gary."
but it's a 14-year-old boy, so yeah, you're gonna show him all these girls that want to be with him. It'll be the best thing you've ever felt, sort of thing. And he's not sure. He's not sold on it. He's like, it doesn't see. It doesn't exactly say that it's not appealing to him, but he doesn't respond to them. And then it goes to Ritsuko saying he's not coming back. He's not coming back to us, and it goes back to Shinji. And Shinji at that point is, "What do you want? What do you want?" At the very end, it shows a fourth woman, not in a sexual way by any means, but it goes on to portray that is probably his mother.
What do you wish for?
Yeah, thank you. What do you wish for? And it's his mother, it's companionship, it's love, it's the thing that he's never been able to feel or have before. So why would he want to go back out to the world if he could experience that there?
Because we've actually seen the mysterious figure before, and that was episode 16, whenever he recognizes it as his mother. So, yeah, I mean, this is our first time seeing it again since, and you know.
One of the other things that I noted there was Shinji really wants people to be nice to him in that fever dream. That is the big one of the big conclusions is that he says, "Why can't everyone just be nice to me? Why can't everyone just kind of appreciate him and appreciate him not for having to be an EVA pilot?" Because it starts talking to him about, why are you an EVA pilot? You said that you would never pilot one of these again. Well, everyone's counting on him to do this, and he wants their praise. He wants their love. Why can't everyone just be nice to me? Why do I have to be an EVA pilot to get all of these people's praise? And it starts thinking about that. And I did find it interesting, the duality of, he pilots this instrument of extreme violence, specifically so that he can feel kindness from others. I'm not entirely sure that was what the show intended, but I found that interesting. I don't know if anyone else finds that interesting at all. JC?
Yeah, I agree with that, Reed, that it's heartbreaking when Shinji's in that train moment and has his, like, I didn't, the translation might be different, but it was not necessarily that everybody should be nice to me. Somebody be nice to me. He's just hoping for at least one person to just be nice to him, just for a reason other than piloting the EVA. Or as he even says, it's not just piloting. He needs to fight and he needs to win. Without that, he's not going to earn the kindness of others at this point, is what he's internalized. And yeah, it is something that he's recognizing, especially as he's bouncing back and forth between, why are we even fighting the angels in the first place? But now he's almost internalized as well that he's fighting not only because they are enemies who are going to attack him, but because he's seeking that praise. Gary?
I disagree with Steven that, like, there's a duality to Shinji, because Shinji's never been the tip of the spear. Shinji's always thought of, I think, the role as a shield. Like, he does it to protect himself and Tokyo 3. He's never been violent. He's not being violent towards people. He's being violent towards the other, these angels, which he doesn't understand. He doesn't feel great about, but everyone around him is telling him that they're the bad people. So he's not like a murderous psychopath, like causing violence. He's communicating violence because he was told that he was the only one who was able to do this. Steven?
Sure, and I guess that's probably. I didn't mean to imply that he was like some psychopath going out and killing humans. He's already made it very apparent he doesn't want to touch humans. Doesn't want to. He would rather die than kill another human, and he'd almost let other people die than him have to kill another human. Which, morality of that aside, I do think that he is willing to at least kill. For everyone is encouraging him. Yeah, and I think he understands that these angels he's fighting, they are alive in some way, shape, or form. They are. I don't think he can escape that at this point. These EVAs that he's piloting, they are alive in some way, shape, or form, even if they're not human. And he's using them. He's using one of those two to commit violence against the other, and he's doing that for kindness. And I don't know. When I was my big brain moment when I was watching this is how you could really get sucked into doing some really fucking horrible things. If you are relying on, and for quote unquote good reasons, if you are the guard camp in Germany and everyone that you've ever known relies on you to be that guard camp, and the only happiness, the only kindness that they show you is if you're that guard, yeah, then you'll probably be the best guard you can be in Germany. It makes you the villain in the end, but that's not your perspective on it. And so I just thought that was very interesting and very, I don't know if it was meant to be a commentary on the human condition. And knowing this show, it very well could be. But I do think it is at least an unintentional commentary on how humans are driven to do maybe some horrible things for things like kindness, which is strange to say.
Fair enough. I was gonna say the next part of the fever dream that I wrote a note on was that it took a very long cut on a baby being breastfed, and the comment was, "This smells like my mother," and I was like, considering the frantic editing of the early part of the episode, like a long, drawn out image of like a cartoon, like I was just like, this is just off. As I said, I think this episode just wants me to feel uncomfortable. It's like flashing lights, and then like girls grinding on you, and then like like breastfeeding babies, and I was like, I don't know, I don't know how to feel about these things. This is weird.
I'll be honest, I think that might have a different, and I don't mean to put anyone on the spot here, but I think that might have a different feel to it, whether you're a guy or a girl. Because I know one of the things that when we had our daughter is the baby smell. There was a very big baby smell thing that went away after a while. That your small child has this weird smell that you associate
It's
with
not
them.
weird. They smell amazing.
Okay, yes. And but the point being, and Amanda, you can jump in here and take this if you want, but I think that the baby probably kind of associates that with the mother as well. And I don't think that is necessarily meant to be off-putting. I think we find it off-putting as guys because we're not really raised to feel like watching breastfeeding is okay. It's only been very recently that breastfeeding has even become acceptable in public. So I think maybe that has a different pull whether you're a girl or a guy watching that scene. I don't know if I'm off on that or not.
It might. I mean, to me, I didn't feel off by that moment. I thought it was just kind of sweet, but like you said, it's different. I imagine, depending on who's looking at it, I thought it was a sweet, cute little baby. I didn't think of the baby smell, but you're right. I mean, those images, they appeal to whatever.
It was a long cut. Like it was
It was a
a
long
long
cut,
cut.
It was a long cut.
but
There
I
were
think maybe
several long
that's
cuts in this one.
yeah. I think maybe that
They
was
used up all
Shinji
their edit
finding.
chops.
It was
It
supposed to be
could
a
be.
peaceful moment, Gary. You were supposed to feel in serenity and
Well,
like, oh.
The
I think
editor just
Gary,
got tired, and there's like, we can just stay on this image for a
probably.
while.
No, I think it's Shinji finding what he wants. And although it's kind of a, I don't know, to us it's kind of a weird thing. He wants his mother. He wants to feel loved. He wants that innate bond that you have with your mother. And I think that's
That
why it
comfortable,
stays on
safe.
that. Yeah, well, it's
Com
because
comfortable, safe, loved
yes,
status.
exactly. You're flying through all these other images. Like you say, you could get epileptic seizure going through this thing. And then you very, very intentionally cut to this point, like you say, and it stays on it for a long time. And I think that's supposed to show that everything is flying through his mind. He doesn't know where to sit on it. And then you get to what he's looking for, and that's his mother. And I have talked a lot, so I'm going to shut up now, but anyone can definitely feel free to dispute or agree with what I said.
No, I would agree with it. I didn't think of like, I mean, your example of the baby smell was kind of funny. I can confirm my daughter smelled absolutely amazing to me for like the first year of her life. And Steven, I am very sad that you never got that. I see Gary's face. To be fair, Gary, that was the face Steven made whenever I mentioned it because he had no clue what I was talking about.
I still have no clue what you're talking about.
Yeah, you're poor for it. I'm so sorry. But yeah, it was a sweet moment. And to be fair, my daughter's only 2, so those moments are pretty fresh in my head still. But I think that's a good point that you pointed out that the rest of it we're flying through it, and then this moment was lingered on of like an ideal. Sorry, go ahead, JC.
Yeah, I was gonna basically support that as well. That I can see that comfort that Shinji feels, and as we sit there on the scene, and I was also gonna call it back a little bit to, I could see this portion of the fever dream being a little bit more related to the Eva's perspective here, because now we start to hear conversations that happened before Shinji would have been born, because it's now talking about like Gendo and Shinji's mom Yui uh, having having conversations about what raising a child would be like in a post Second Impact world, and that Gendo and Yui start discussing what their names would be if they have a child. Shinji if it's a boy, Rei if it's a girl.
Oh,
I
thank you
noted
for
that.
mentioning that. Yeah.
Go ahead. Yeah.
I honestly don't even know where to go from that. We'll wait till the end of the next episode.
Fair enough. To follow it off of Steven's comment, though, that this is what Shinji wants, and we see him linger on this. We get that sense of him lingering on this feeling, though. But ultimately, it is something that he rejects. He decides that
Mhm.
the blue light is pulsing and welcoming him, and it turns red. And Masato, crying out to the Eva to release Shinji to her, wins out, and Shinji reappears in the physical world again, ego intact.
Okay, but did anyone else I saw the liquid just pour out and I was like, "Oh my god."
Yeah.
Like I cringed, I was like shocked, like, "Oh god. That's it. Maybe he is gone for." Like, did his body pop out at the end unseen, or did he just rematerialize himself from the atoms in the primordial soup? I don't know, but oh my god.
I don't know. It doesn't even talk about how he actually got dissolved in the first place, or
Yeah.
it wasn't dissolved. I'm sorry, assimilated in the first place. I apologize, but
And this is jumping ahead a little bit, but in the next episode he's just there and I'm like, "We're not going to talk about this."
unspoken agreement. Nobody
It's like
talks about
it's
it.
like the Eva, he's just back there. We're not going to talk about how you did this? Okay, go back to your room, have fun, see you for breakfast.
And then do we just want to jump to how the episode ends?
Yeah, it ends with the preview that you mentioned at the end of the last episode, which is like a cigarette and a glass of bourbon, like just a long shot. And the second very cringe-worthy audio track that I'm glad I
Yeah,
didn't have friends or family in the room.
I will agree with you on that. That is, I on my second watch through, I actually fast forwarded through that portion. I was just like, I don't need this right now.
My
Maybe
second
I'm some pedantic prude, but
my second watch through, I was like, oh yeah, that's right. This goes on for a while. So then I timed it there, and it's about 30 seconds. So speaking of stuff that goes on too long, I'm like, geez Louise.
Is that too long?
hey, he's a fast performer, okay?
Well, I mean, like I trying to figure out how to kind of phrase this next part here of how to, but it's like it
Yeah.
stops because she goes, "What are you trying to jam into me?" I'm like, "What?" And then he says, "A present. It may be my last one." I'm like, "Okay."
Yeah.
Little foreboding there.
And then a pill is set on the countertop.
That is, yeah.
Yep. I will say one small detail that we see right before that is Masato and Ritsuko are driving home, just talking about the work day. Shinji's back in the physical world. Cool. Unit 1's gonna be repaired soon. Cool. And then Ritsuko asks Masato to go out for a drink, and she's like, "Nah, I got a thing." Ritsuko knows she's running after Kaji, and she even says something like, "Oh yeah, running off to a secret lover. I'm not one to talk though," which is like, who's Ritsuko's secret
Mhm.
lover? That's a fun detail. Just drop here. Okay.
My theory is Gendo.
Does that count as a conspiracy theory? It wasn't said with the proper voice.
Yeah.
I don't
Take it from the top.
that might be in the next episode. I might jump ahead. Also, I noted that too because it was a very awkward conversation in the car about obviously these are two friends. They've known each other since They were teenagers. And like the secrets that they have between one another, and specifically that Ritsuko is all these secrets she's been keeping, like because of her job from her best friend, has just like created this giant rift. And because of this like giant rift, like she's putting Shinji in danger, she's putting all these other people in danger, and just like I didn't really know this person, because they're like putting people's lives at risk for the sake of like scientific advancement. Like, Steven?
I think my only comment on that is I feel like every single character in this show, besides Shinji, for whatever godforsaken reason, has some deep, dark secret they're kind of hiding. Like, there's always something that they are trying, it feels like at least, that they're trying to keep out of sight. Whether it be Kaji being a super spy, whether it be Ritsuko basically being a sociopathic, uncaring scientist, whether it
Kiko's got
be,
nothing. But yeah, otherwise,
definitely nothing.
just normal
It
dude.
just, yeah, for real, 100%.
Picking up ladies all over the place. Yeah.
It just feels like there's a I don't want to use the word duality again. There is a foil to every single one of these characters. Their outward personality, and then they have a foil, which is their something that creates a shadow for them. And it makes them interesting to me. The characters without a shadow, without this foil, tend to feel more one-dimensional, and those are like the three operators. They don't have too much going on for them. Even some of Shinji's friends don't really have this depth to them, but the people with that foil, with that shadow, have a lot of depth, and I feel like are very strong characters in and of themselves. Gary?
Be like living in a world of like a post-apocalypse where like these people are so high up in the government that they're making very shady decisions. They're part of a shady organization that I still don't really understand how it fits under the UN. Like, and it's pretty much, I think Ritsuko must have crossed a line years ago that she was like, yeah, well, I guess there's no turning back from here. And it's always like one step further into like, how did I get here? Like, and so I think that's what creates the duality, is that these people like are just like, they're the people they want to be, and then there's the people they have to be.
It's a Terry Pratchett quote right there. If you're going to break the rules, break them good and hard.
That sounds like a sign from a porno movie.
It could be a sign from. I'm not going to continue with what I was going to say.
Anyway, yes, that was all. Any other notes on this episode? Because we got through the two very, very difficult sexualized scenes in this episode.
The only other thing that I'd like to say about the sexualization of those scenes is, as a kid when I watched this, and I mean, when I was a kid, this was several years ago, I guess, when I watched this specific episode, I still felt a little, I did feel uncomfortable with them basically showing Asuka and Rei naked. I felt that was weird. A little less so with Masato, because Masato, she's got to be, what, 27, 28, maybe 31, something like that. Like, she's
Age has
definitely
always
an
been
adult.
a question. I always guess her as like 20-something, and then apparently
Yeah,
she's
definitely young adult.
40s.
The other two are definitely 14 years old. And I get this those are the two other women in Shinji's life. It just still feels weird to show them
Didn't show
sexual.
Didn't show
It did
class
not
rep.
show Ritsuko. Did not show class rep. Wu was also 14.
Didn't show
Anyway,
Maya.
I have no comment here. That was just like it was uncomfortable.
It was.
Random question, just because you mentioned her age, and I'm wondering now, when was the second impact again? Or when was
2000.
Antarctica?
2000.
And so we're 15 years later, right?
Yep.
And
Far
how
off future of 2015.
old was Misato in that time? Like I think she's like just a little kid.
Next, you find out she's the lone survivor of the
Yeah.
encampment there.
I think
And
about
she looked
6.
God,
Yeah.
so
So I'd
she's.
think we're
I mean, according to
21.
that, she'd only be like 21, which doesn't make sense. Like I don't know.
No, that doesn't actually.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to figure out her age wise. She must be
She
old.
12 maybe?
A
Like
quick
Maybe she's
Google says
older.
that she was 33 as of the 2015 timeline, December
Okay.
8th, 1986. If you want to
so
see
she
how
was
close you are to her birthday.
18 when the second impact hit?
God, she looks much younger than that.
Yeah, as I said,
I don't know.
they play a real questionable game of age. Like,
Well, some of that's in the next episode. We can move on to that one if you guys want.
Tyler, do you have any other thoughts on the first episode?
No, I'm good.
Episode 20, I should say.
I'm good with closing out that episode.
Oh.
Then moving on to 21. Next out, Steven, what do you have?
Nope, too late, Steven.
No, I don't have anything. I
Okay.
don't have anything.
Okay.
So the first scene of episode 20, let's go through it again. Episode 21. He was aware that he was still a child, or the birth of NERV. As Fuyutsuki is interrogated by Seal, he reminisces about the history of NERV and its parent company, Gehern. And I will give plenty of credit to anybody on this episode here that the pronunciation key for Seal is a nightmare because everybody in this episode says it differently. Sometimes the same character says it differently. It's Seal, Sele, Zela. Just grab a consonant and a vowel and throw it up in the air and see
So
what.
I will say for Zela, that would actually make sense from the German perspective, like where because S's are pronounced like Z's in German. Yeah, so I guess the very first thing in the episode, obviously, what do you guys think about that amazing videotape that we saw that if you ever saw it, you are apparently going to jail forever, which, by the way, you didn't actually have to see it. You just had to touch it. So how would you know if it was actually like, don't get me started on that portion right there. But what did you guys think about that?
Okay,
Yeah.
so was it just Fury camera footage that they were? I didn't really understand the context of it because there's people talking over it.
Mm-hmm.
I assumed it was Gendo or somebody else talking over it.
I don't think it identifies exactly who is the person talking, at least at first. And then there seem to be two other people that talk over it. And I think I associate that as Gendo and Professor Fuyutsuki.
Not
I
Kaji?
could be. I do not associate as Kaji, at least. I could be
Dark
entirely
Horse
wrong.
point here. I believe it's the voice of the council chair, Keel Lorenz. That's who that voice sounded like to me.
Okay.
And we later learned that they've been working together for years, Gendo and Keel. So the to me that made sense on a rewatch that okay, that's who this voice is Keel.
Definitely could be. But yeah, I agree that it's a little difficult to continue with. Tyler.
So just to confirm, we're talking about the thing that takes place in the year 2000 in Antarctica, right?
Yes, the very first thing of the episode.
Okay. Yeah. So I wrote down like, is that supposed to be then the second impact?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Because then I picked up a couple of things that came out of the audio recording there. They talked about the spear, atom,
Yes.
AT fields, the wings are spreading, and it's going for the surface.
And if we're just talking pure details, I'll add one more. They talk about the DNA infusion experiment going awry.
I was going to mention that too. I think that's what causes so they specifically say that Adam has undergone fusion and that they need to limit anything from getting to Adam down to the atomic level. And if you need to break it down by the quark, go for it. Which, if you're going to be breaking things down by the quark in the 2000s, you got another thing going for you. But That said, it is obvious that they're trying to stop every single particle of whatever is being sent into Adam, and it's being done by the Spear of Longinus. And then kaboom.
Amanda, did you get any of that from that?
So I understood that we were watching video cameras. I understood that nothing needed to touch Adam. I was dimly making the connection of, oh, it wasn't a meteor, which apparently was obvious, but I didn't honestly connect those dots until just now because Antarctica was gone. So I was like, oh, that was a meteor, which I knew there was some kind of cover up, but I think I was assuming that Adam was some kind of alien that came on the meteorite. I don't. Now I'm realizing there was no meteorite.
We
I
saw
didn't write notes down for this beginning part. I was just sitting there listening to it and absorbing it.
That's fair.
But I did catch that Spear of Longin. I did catch the spear thing.
Got the spear thing too. That's about all I caught.
I
Did you
also
catch the Gates of Guff?
I also noticed Misato's father was there. I caught the name and I was like, oh, we're seeing Misato, and then they were like, I think they threw in a he, and I was like, oh, that's right, her dad.
Yeah, the very first line I think is talking about like Dr. Katsuragi's super solenoid theories, which then has them discussing the S2 drive essentially, which we've had a whole discussion on last time. Like whenever Unit 1 ate the S2 drive, they're already talking about this super solenoid thing being apparently what powers these creatures that they're now trying to experiment on.
Mm-hmm. And I think one of the last things they also mentioned is, how do they actually say it? They mentioned the Gates of Guff, and don't look it up because it is a immediate spoiler. Unfortunately, it is a biblical term, as everything in here is, but it has been very much taken over by this fandom. So do not look it up.
Got it.
Um,
I'm not
but
looking
they
up anything
mentioned
with this show. I don't want
that's fair.
spoilers.
Yeah, I think
But
when
they
the show
mentioned
ends, I'll look at a Wikipedia page and just go, okay.
it's probably a good idea. Yeah, they mentioned to stop everything until the Gates of Guff can be opened, I believe, or just start the cooling when the Gates of Guff are opened.
I basically understood bad stuff was happening. And there was a lot of dates and a lot of people and a lot of, oh, this is what happened moments.
So,
are we still talking about the Antarctica time, or are we moving on to the next thing?
so I wanted to ask about that here. Like, how do we want to touch on this episode? Because it is a lot of basic. Like I was telling everyone before the podcast started, I just wrote down the time, the year, like a quick synopsis of what happened, and just kind of kept going, trying to absorb everything. So, like, that's a lot to break down for covering the episode. So I don't know how. Gary, do you have anything you want to talk about for the Antarctica scene, or?
Like, what did I get out of it? It was a basic security camera footage of a nuclear meltdown. Like, that's about all I got out of it. And there was a spear. That was it.
So if anybody's interested in slight rewatch stuff, we did see a small bit of the Antarctic explosion, the second impact, essentially from Misato's viewpoint. Gosh, what is that? Episode 7, 8, something like that. I can look back and find the exact one, but it's another one of those things. Just at the very beginning of any episode, that you're seeing the Antarctica going to hell. Essentially, it's basically after probably where the security footage ends off here, and then you see the wings erupting above the Earth's atmosphere as Adam fully comes to.
Yeah,
right?
in the security footage, you see the hand or whatever come out of wherever it's at.
Yeah. Just small dots to connect to.
Tyler, I feel like just go by the years and we'll try to jump in the notes there. My general thought for this episode was like I had a lot of hope for it. I was like, oh, we're gonna learn more stuff. We got lots of flashbacks. And then like halfway through the episode, the creators just give them double birds, more questions, fuckers. I thought I was gonna get answers, but nothing was answered, and more questions were raised.
JC, you and I were discussing this before we started recording here fully here. It's like this episode definitely gave us a lot, but
it sets up it answers many questions, but not in a way that really like you're not done with the questions that you had. You're just like, okay, these are
New
answers, but I
questions.
still have more, if not the same questions. Yeah. In terms of like potential ways to discuss this episode, rather than just literally going scene by scene again, maybe it's do you want to just maybe pick a character that was focused on and kind of go through
Yeah.
their story and how they got to here? Maybe that's a more complete way to do it.
Maybe we just touch then on. So we're introduced to Shinji's mom, Gendo, when he was younger and looked completely different without his glasses there and his beard.
Horrifying.
We're we're introduced to Ritsuko's mom.
Yep.
Who
Naoko.
Yeah, well, I guess we know of her, but now we actually see her. And then also too, we get more backstory on Gary's favorite pronunciation for the episode, Fuyutsuki.
Ooh, whose favorite?
Fuyutsuki.
There you go.
But at least I don't sound crazy trying to pronounce it there. So yeah, I like that idea, JC. Let's just pick a character and just kind of run with one of them.
Which
So
character do you think you start with? I think you'd start with Fuyutsuki. I think he is the least. He's
Congratulations
the least
on
interesting character. I have no conspiracy theories for him.
least interesting character. Okay, number one, congratulations on giving Tyler an out for mispronouncing Fuyutsuki. Number two, how is he uninteresting? Dude is super interesting. I actually, I don't know. When I watched this episode, I always considered him as kind of like a secondary character, and then you watch it, and you're like, holy shit, he's kind of the he might be a portion of the brains behind this. Like he's not just some little figure behind the curtain. He is a power in his own right. Amanda?
Pretty similar thoughts, honestly. Until this episode, he was just one of Gendo's main minion in the background, given to give Gendo someone to speak his mysterious phrases at. He meant absolutely nothing. He had vaguely the same hair type, or otherwise I didn't even realize it was the same guy half the time. And in this episode, it starts with him, and I was like, oh, God, okay, fine. And it goes through his background, and I was like, oh, wow. He was a professor. He knows this. He was like a good guy. He knows a lot of information. So he's now elevated for me up into the upper echelons of secondary, but, kind of mainish characters instead of nameless minion that I don't care about.
I put him in the same category as a German soldier. Like, obviously he had a background. He was a nice guy. Like, he was a professor. Like, he was super nice. And then it's like through the episode, you're like, why did you invite me to Antarctica? Well, we needed somebody from outside the organization to give us credence. Oh, so I'm not here because you want my opinion. I'm here because you want someone who's not already part of your cult to give it some credibility. And then it's just like several steps in because he looks like a super nice guy, but it didn't answer when did he go off the deep end and when did the power struggle shift from him being in charge to Gendo being in charge.
Well, I think it does answer that. It answers that in terms of after the second impact, Professor Fuyutsuki becomes a basically no-name doctor in some reclamation, and they have to go find him. And at that point in time, it's let known that Gendo has become some super. This was interesting for me to hear. I didn't catch this on the first time watching this, but he's become fabulously wealthy. He has more money than any one person could ever know what to do with. And he is recruited back from that till you can come back and at least that's what it seems to me, that he's recruited back for this new sort of venture, and that at that point in time, because Gendo has basically all the cards and Fuyutsuki has no more cards to play, the power dynamic has entirely shifted.
I think it does show a good job of how their relationship changed over the years, because at first he was like, you're weird. I don't really like you. You're probably not a good guy. And to be fair, considering Gendo's slightly crazed-eyed appearance, which did strike me as being like, wow, they made like they did do a good job of showing a similarity between him and Shinji, and yet like this one I'm scared of. Shinji's much nicer looking. Um, but like seeing their relationship change over the years, and then like the second impact happens, and then Yui dies as well, and like by then, I think especially when they say that Gendo completely changed after his wife died, by that time they're like completely swapped in roles. They also have a conversation between the two. Was I think it was the two of them about the third impact in the Dead Sea Scrolls will be 10 years from now, right? Yep, yeah, 10 years from now. And I thought that was interesting because they clearly both knew, they both read this, and they were clearly planning at this point to handle what to do about it, or until it.
Yeah, so to me, the Gendo Fuyutsuki relationship is entirely hinges on the fact that Yui is the glue between them both. Like she just wants to be around both of these people, and so early on, like she's the reason that Fuyutsuki gets recruited back into the fold for this mission, if I recall, where she's saying, "Hey, we need somebody out here to add legitimacy to this thing because Gendo and Yui are now both part of this shadowy organization, Sele, and they need that extra credence. So that's to me, it's Yui reaching out to say, Fuyutsuki, we're part of this bigger thing. And she's always had a respect for him. If early in the episode, whenever he's going his flashbacks, like that's the first time he remembers hearing Ikari is whenever she wants to meet him because she's heard so much about him. And so now it's this moment of her wanting to try and bring everybody that she respects and underneath this umbrella here that they're trying to do. And Fuyutsuki at first is just brought in from the outside, but he starts piecing things together before he can necessarily be directly invited. And so he's trying to confront Gendo at that point, and then just turns it around on him. And Gendo basically shows him the Evas that they're working on, and that's whenever he makes that swap and says, "Okay, this is the second impact has ruined us." I think it was Yui and him have a conversation, and they're just talking like, "Man, it's crazy to think we're never going to have autumn again." Because it's just permanently summer the way that the climate has changed in Japan.
Was
And
it
so
30 degrees Celsius that they say it was?
something like that, I think, yeah. And so he's just talking that like, yeah, it's just the world is never going to be right. And so I think that's seeing the links that they're going to as an organization, I think is when Fuyutsuki says like, okay, if I really want to make change, it's not going to be a small town doctor at this point. Like I need to be part of this larger thing. Okay.
I going back to Gendo, just on this relationship, is it historically or culturally normal for a guy to take a woman's name? Like even in 1995 in the U.S., that would have been very, very strange. So I was.
I don't
Steven
believe
shaking
so.
his head. Okay,
I
so
couldn't say that
that
definitively, but I don't believe so.
leads me to my conspiracy theories that the reason that Gendo changed his last name was because he had a shady past that he needed to change his name to get away from. Because you hear that he got into a bar fight, like it's very contextual, like anytime his name is mentioned, even back in college or high school, that like he's not like he's from the wrong side of the tracks. He's not
Well,
somebody who's the best and brightest. He's
let me ask.
somebody who's a troublemaker and who's obviously started some stuff before. Steven?
Let me ask this real quick first, and this is a non-podcast question, more of, do we want to then switch from the professor to Gendo? Because we're talking about him per person. So
I can deal with that.
Yeah, I think it's fine. Just kind of let the conversation flow as is.
Mhm.
And we can,
Yeah.
if we run this thread, then we can say like, all right, well, back to Fuyutsuki quick.
okay, yeah. In that case, I mean, I do get that feeling, Gary. I've always been disconcerted with, and I think I said earlier, dude's ugly as hell. His eyes are creepy. His entire manner is scary and creepy. And the best way that I can define him is if anyone has ever read Stephen King's The Stand, he seems to me to be it's maybe someone else culturally affinitive will be able to understand that. But anyways, it's a very charismatic but dark and evil figure that you are somehow drawn to, even though they are wrong. And that's what he seems like to me when I see him. Is there something wrong with him? There's something off, and there's something, and I'm sure it's how they drew the eyes. I am absolutely sure that's what it is.
My initial intro
But-
was going to be my serial killer eyes bring all the lady scientists to the yard.
There you go. So when I see him, I very much, Gary, believe he is trying to escape from something, or he's trying to hide himself from something, or he's trying to trying to include himself in something that he is not.
Change his name. Obviously, his wife's name has more credence throughout the conversation. Like,
Yeah, and that's what I feel like for the name changes about is that Yui has all this extra. One, that she's known as being one of the smartest people at the school and has all these great theories and all these things. So she's got a good name, so to speak. And whether he's got necessarily a dark past, his name is not necessarily a good one. He doesn't have status or anything associated with it. It sounds like he definitely didn't have all the money ahead of time before joining this shadowy cabal. And so now it's the situation where, yeah, if you want to start new and start fresh, take the better name.
So I guess then my question to you guys would be, does he get with Shinji's mom? Is that purely selfish
Political?
sort of thing? Yeah, I guess political. Or is he just trying to get ahead in the world? Is he using her? And I can't remember her first name for the life of me.
Yui.
Yui, thank you.
I don't know. Like, it honestly, the show leaves it very questionable. Like, it's even questioned directly. Like, really? You're with that guy? Like, Fuyutsuki asks directly, like, you're with him? Like, you're dating that guy? Like you're so smart. You can do so much better. Why are you with that asshat?
But she defends it, and at the same time, like, everyone says that he's a completely changed person after she dies. So, like, it's funny. They do hint there's something there. It could just be artifice, honestly. He could have been pretending to be somebody while she was there, but I don't know. They do leave it open.
Or that she had the missing piece of the puzzle. Steven?
That's kind of, and that is where I was going to go, is does she have some missing piece that he needs? Because the feeling that I almost get is that he is playing this triple con, 100% con game already when he is this young in college, that he is already working for, I think they mentioned at some point that they had a bunch of people that got together and made SEAL, that he has already been introduced to this group of SEAL at this point in time. And so that his relationship with Yui is specifically to better the chances of SEAL. And that tends to be what I get of it.
Yeah, I don't know that necessarily that if she has a piece, I don't think we're given enough information to say what that is. I know, like, at one point Fuyutsuki in that initial meeting is talking about, like, oh, you have some amazing theories here, but I don't know that we get told exactly what those are. Whereas when we meet Ritsuko's mom later on, she's like, oh, hey, I'm just here working on my organic computer technology. Like, oh, weird. And you make the Magi. But I do agree that with Amanda that it seems like the affection that Gendo and Yui share is, I think, real. When we get that flash back in the previous episode to the voices between Gendo and Yui talking about raising a child and stuff like that, that doesn't sound like someone cold and calculated like we know of Gendo now. That's a fairly earnest conversation. It just talks about, it sounds like two loving parents trying to talk about raising a family and having a loving relationship there. So, if there was an initial political bent to it, I think it could have been one of those where it then turns into, like, oh, I actually do have affections. We grew into an actual relationship based on it.
I go to the Spider-Man theory, which is that Amazing Spider-Man where Peter Parker has the bloodline that allows him to integrate with the Spider-Man serum, and that's why Shinji is valuable, because he's a direct descendant of his mother, who is maybe the perfect Eva pilot.
What?
I need the Spider-Man expert to double check that. JC.
I didn't watch that movie, really. Sorry.
Oh, you
The
didn't.
Amazing Spider-Man, the one with
Andrew
Andrew
Garfield.
Garfield. Yeah.
crocodile in it.
Yeah. Peter Parker was like a cool camera guy doing kickflips on a skateboard. That's not Peter Parker, man. So
And that in that iteration of their story,
That timeline.
the reason that he is able to accept the super spider serum is because it is specifically designed for his DNA.
Does this count
I'm
as a
sorry.
conspiracy theory?
Do you want the conspiracy theory? Let's go. Conspiracy theory.
I blame you,
Rey is, in
Amanda.
fact, a clone
Well,
of
I-
Shinji's mom, and that is why she is the pilot of Unit 0, who is the Eva that they're working on when Shinji's mom dies or gets consumed in the Eva. Like, Rey comes out of nowhere, miraculously has a name that the mom and dad wanted to begin with. Like, she is totally an effing clone or something to the nature. Like, I was watching this episode, I was like, does this still fall in my time clone? And I had to go look at my notes about time clones. And the time clones were specifically about Misato and Kaji. So I was wrong on that point, but I still think there's some familiar cloning and going on.
Okay. A, I meant does the Spider-Man theory count as a conspiracy theory? But B, Carrie's next conspiracy theory worries me because I literally wrote down the same thing. I wrote down, oh no, is Rey a clone? So I'm a little concerned that my thinking puts me on the same page as Gary's conspiracy theories.
Monkey throws a dart at a dartboard enough times, it's bound to get a bullseye.
Well, I think we know that there is some variance there, because I don't think that Yui was piloting Unit 0 whenever she goes missing. We know from the flashback and Shinji's dream last time that Unit 1 was what he saw the day that he last saw his mother.
Unit 1. Sorry, Unit 1.
So, but then Rey is piloting Unit 0, so there's some variance there with your theory. Just throw it out there.
But then to even touch on that, though, Gendo shows Fuyutsuki, the guy, Unit 0 there, basically.
I'll just add that to the soundboard here of just me saying it correctly, that you can get to hit that.
Fuyutsuki.
I know how to pronounce it, too. It's just like when you go to actually then say it, it's just like it just doesn't come out of your mouth. But
We haven't had him as much. This is probably the most we've said his name in any episode.
Very true.
Back to you, Tyler.
But yeah, it's Unit 0 that Gendo shows him, though, there as like part of the, hey, you should join me kind of conversation they have. Do we want to touch then on Ritsuko's mom a little bit more there? And her wild interaction?
Yeah, she has some fun. Do we have anything else on Fuyutsuki, I guess, before we moved on to a different character, really?
Fuyutsuki. I kept writing in my notes with a K instead of an F. I put Fuyutsuki. I got it. I'll get it figured out.
No,
I'm good on him.
I mean, I guess to start here too, like, I don't think we actually said that he was kidnapped at the start of this episode there.
Oh,
No, we didn't.
I
yeah.
forgot about that.
And
Was
who
he
saves him?
by-
Well, yeah, I think I'll be honest. At first, I thought he was kidnapped by Kaji, and then realized
He wasn't?
he was saved by Kaji.
He's saved by Kaji. Kaji breaks him out of jail.
Yeah.
It seemed
On a
like, though,
rewatch.
I feel like did he do that, or did he be
think
like,
both?
hey, I kidnapped you. Oh, hey, I found you. Look, what a coincidence. You're right where somebody put you.
I thought there was some allusion to that too at the end of the last episode
Yeah.
there, or something like that.
I thought Kaji did both, but honestly, I don't know. I will bow to your superior wisdom.
I'm not going to say the word superior there, but
It does not, in fact, say exactly who does it. I don't
So,
believe.
Okay.
To lay out the facts rather than Gary's conspiracy theories. Fact number 1.
Fact
It
number
starts on
1.
Kaji is like on the phone talking about like he's got one last job to do, and it's to me it's leaving the message that we hear at the end of the episode. But then Misato then gets pulled in and basically gets taken to jail for a while because NERV realizes that Fuyutsuki has gone missing and they suspect Kaji. And that's why Misato, being an associate of Kaji, needs to go to jail just to be under watch and make sure that there's not any funny business going on there.
Jail? I thought she just had to turn over her gun and badge and just like sit in an office until like I didn't think it was jail. I thought
I
she was
think
just under like
she's
administrative hold, administrative detention.
solitary administrative hold. Yeah,
She was still in the office. She just got hung out.
Well, at one
in a
point
office
she's
building
stuck
for a
in the
week.
dark, right? And she talks about how
Yeah.
she hates being in the dark because it reminds her of being after Second Impact, being the one there. So, yeah, to me it read as like you're being detained essentially. So
I
it
didn't
could have been
catch that
necessarily
stuff,
like
but that's a good catch. So.
yeah, that's why I'm dealing with facts. Fact number 2. Yeah, we do end up then getting Kaji busting out Fuyutsuki at the end, and even Fuyutsuki then warns Kaji like, "Hey, you're gonna be in danger now because you busted me out from Sele, who is the one interrogating Fuyutsuki when we get all these flashbacks." And even Kaji's saying like, "Yeah, well, I mean, people are starting to figure out that like I gave Gendo a piece of Adam, and I just need somebody to be on my side here." But that's what we know. So it could be that Kaji was playing the double card and that he got brought in because we know that Kaji is the Bell and from the council, and so it could be that he was still working for them when he brought in Fuyutsuki and then turned back the other way to release Fuyutsuki. But we at least know that he was suspected at first and then he busted him out. Steven?
I think at one point Kaji does say he's trying to learn more about himself as he's breaking them out. And I feel like Kaji may have gone rogue as he was going on this, and Kaji was just basically at the end working for himself. And then I'll leave it up to the group to decide Kaji's fate. What do you think happened?
See, I was gonna ask you guys. Go ahead, Gary. You're just too excited.
I think he was shot. Like literally, it says, "Hey, there you are," and then bam! Like it's and the primary suspects are either Fuyutsuki. Damn it! I clicked on your Ritsuko or Misato or Gendo. Like, and there's so many people who could have done it, but literally the way he says the words, "Oh, it's you, hello," is very friendly. Like he's meeting somebody who he trusts, and then he just gets shot. That's how I read it.
that's how I read
I
it.
was gonna. Yeah, I was gonna ask you guys. Is he dead? You were supposed to come back with. No. It's fine.
I mean, that's how I read it
No,
too,
he's-
though. Like, he met somebody friendly who I was assuming, just based on the way the episode ends, it was Masato.
That's what I'm
I
scared
was
of.
thinking Ritsuko. Because Ritsuko has a secret lover too. And I think that was also Kaji.
I feel like my assumption, like I feel like they wanted us to think it was Misato, which is making me think it was possibly somebody else, honestly. But I'm sure I'll stay tuned to find out.
Oh yeah, I wrote down what he says is, "Hey, what took you so long?" So yeah, I thought it was Ritsuko, Masato, or Fuyut-SOO-kee.
Maybe it's the class
There you
president.
go,
We
buddy.
haven't seen her in a
That's
while.
true.
The class president is just out of nowhere
Class president
enforcing the
mysteriously
rules.
Or Asuka,
Oh.
she liked him.
You took Toji's leg, I take your life.
Honestly, Asuka makes perfect sense too. Like, you never know.
It's true.
She's been in a rough state. Yeah. To me, it doesn't read as Masato just because she's so torn up about hearing that message that like
Unless she murdered him and had to, and just sad about it. Like, I don't know. But yeah, I also didn't really think it was Masato, but
I did when I watched it, but the more since then, the more I think about it, the more I feel like they wanted me to, which is, like I said, making me real suspicious.
Interesting.
Very true. Yep. The more you think about it, you're like, maybe.
They won't catch me. They won't fool me. I'll figure it out
I'm sure they will.
when they spell it out for me.
Come back with your reportings next time, Amanda.
I will. I'll let you guys know.
Gary.
So which character are we on now? I had another.
I think we're gonna try and actually jump back to Ritsuko's mom. I think that's where we were trying to start
Oh,
talking
yeah.
there.
Okay.
Yes.
Ritsuko's mom. That's what. Somebody else can take that.
I'm trying to skip my notes here. What was it? One of the 2003 scenes is when I think she was first introduced, working on the Magi system there.
Do you know what the first thing I recognized about her mom and about Ritsuko? Neither are blonde. Neither.
True.
They're both brown brunettes, and I found that very, I don't know, startling, because you're looking for this blonde, and she's not blonde at all.
Now you're making me play the hair game to see who's got blonde hair.
The hair game.
Well, we do see young Ritsuko there, and she definitely does not have blonde hair when we see her young. So she's obviously been. It's a fact we probably learned. She's been dyeing her hair. I guess even too, if you look at her eyebrows in the picture JC provided, they are that reddish color. I mean, not to say
Jet
the eyebrows
black.
can't be a different color, but.
And we see.
Or sometimes your kid is just a different hair color, Steven. Okay.
No, you see Ritsuko as a young girl, and she has brunette. You can usually go from blonde to brunette, but you don't go from brunette to blonde. Anyways,
and we do see
anyone you want to be.
We do see, and speaking of being anybody you want to be, in college is whenever you go and start trying new things, and that's when we do see that Ritsuko has started dyeing her hair at that point when we get that meet cute with Masato in the lunch line. And yeah, she's already blonde by that point. But as a younger girl inside the NERV HQ, working on the Magi with her mom, still a brunette, same hair color as her mom.
But also, you do see that she talks about wanting to be not known for her mom. Like, she was happy to be not recognized based on her mom's notoriety. So dyeing your hair color blonde maybe
it's true.
Makes you blend into the crowd a little better.
Yep.
I do find it. Ritsuko's mom does talk about the creation of the three magi, and she explains to her daughter, "Oh yeah, it's." They talk about it: mother, a scientist, and a woman, and how they're creating all that. And I think going back to even the last episode, apparently she also made it modular, so you can transport those from one facility to another, which I found very interesting.
See, and I thought that was a repeat of an episode I was just like, you're over explaining this three robot system. Like, you're just as I said, like, you just this is when the robot was created. I don't really care about the robot, but we talked about that. Like, that wasn't a new answer. Thanks. There's also a flashback for information I already knew.
There's also a throwaway line that she says in there about something about, like, well, I haven't really been a great mother. Pretty hands off.
Right. Yeah, she has a few moments there where it's like she doesn't actually seem to enjoy being a mom in some senses, almost, where she is like in the middle of writing one of the letters to Ritsuko at college, and just like as she's trying to say all these like, oh, I hope you're making many friends, she just goes like, motherhood. Just like to herself, just like she's just, man, I don't even want to be doing this. It almost feels like.
And then the other fascinating news is that Ritsuko's mom maybe is falling in love with Gendo. And
I don't think maybe's a word about it.
Yeah.
But that also brings credence to a previous theory that we mentioned, that Gendo is only using Shinji's mom for her knowledge and power. Is that if you translate that, the only reason he's hanging out with Ritsuko's mom is to like take over her magical super robot system. Tyler?
And I was going to ask the kind of general group here, judging by the way the kiss happened and stuff like that too, it seems fairly one-sided there. Unless maybe I'm interpreting that wrong, but I was wondering if anyone else thought of that as well.
No, it seems one-sided to me as well. And I feel like we should consider this the arc of her relationship with Gendo is one single thing, because it turns out tragic. Gendo gets she basically goes up to Gendo after Yui disappears into Evil One and goes, "Oh, well, I mean, you didn't really care about her anyways, so at least I'm here now." Or I don't exactly remember how the conversation goes. But then, sits on his lap and starts making out with him. And as we see later on in the episode, he has his eyes open the entire time, which is not a great sign when you're making out with someone to just be staring off into space. And then it gets further on into the episode, and this other character that we will talk about in a little bit comes out and lets basically Ritsuko's mom know that Gendo thinks she's a hag, that she is some nagging hag that doesn't believe anything and blah, blah, blah. And this affects her mom so much that she ends up killing this character. And then, in my view, at least, it doesn't explicitly show this. I'm happy it doesn't show this. Ritsuko's mom then throws herself off this balcony she's on after she kills this one character because she can't imagine killing that character, and dies.
Okay, like as I said, this character has like the arc of the end of the episode for like 2 solid good conspiracy theories. Like, and I disagree completely with what Steven's explanation of her death is.
Okay. I was given the vanilla facts. You can spice it up.
The person
throw some cayenne.
choking is Ray, who calls her an old hag. Adding to the conspiracy theory that Ray is actually Shinji's mom's clone, like, she probably wouldn't like the new woman in Gendo's life. Also, while she's choking Ray, she says in the audio dub, "There are plenty of replacements for you, Ray." In the written dub, it says, "Even if you die, there will be another to take your place." So that lends even more credence to the fact that Ray is in fact a clone, or maybe she's just a pilot. They already know she's going to be a pilot. Like, she is so angry about Gendo that she hurts this small child who really hasn't done anything.
Yeah, she went.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're fine. Go ahead.
And I took the end of that scene as her being shot. Is that you hear a gunshot at the end of the choking, and then you see her chalk outline in the end like she got shot. And so my theory is of anyone in that timeline could have shot her. Gendo, Misato, anyone. Amanda?
I'm kind of agreeing with Gary here because I was so confused because she went from like 0 to murder in about 3 seconds. Like, yes, she's obviously hurt, devastated, feels betrayed, but she took that on the child in front of her whose worst crime was just to call her a hag, albeit in maybe a creepy way. But like, she was trying to. I did have my theory that Ray was a clone. I didn't quite connect that with the dots about like, there's plenty of you out there. Because I was like, this kid can't be dead, right? Because we see Ray later on. Is there another Ray then? Are there more clones? But I also did write down, like, is this suicide or murder? Because I could see that either way. They left it open to me.
Either way too.
Like, maybe she felt bad about it because you do see her being like, oh, what did I just do? But also, I kind of wrote, like, because if it was murder, like, if Gendo walked in and saw that and shot her, like, it's kind of justified because she just tried to kill a child or did kill a child. I'm not entirely sure. Like, Ray could have killed her and it would have been self-defense and justified. Go ahead, Tyler.
So I will say I don't remember hearing the gunshot, so props to you, Gary, for picking up on that there. But also to the way it leads more credence to at least a fall killing her or something like that, because the way it is then shown is like, I think the multi-level magi area there, she's up on the higher point, and then it keeps panning forward there, so you're seeing then the lower part where the first magi container is. There's blood splattered on the top of that, and then that's down a little further is the outline of where she ended up residing at there. So
I guess I didn't ever catch the jump. I just assumed she was murdered or suicided.
yeah, I'm not saying even to again, I kind of agree with you and Amanda there. Like, it's not completely clear whether it was a suicide or a murder there, but like you can clearly see like there's enough of a level there that her body at least hit that point, splattered blood up there, and then fell a little further to the final resting place. Stephen.
Also, when they show that, I think they specifically talk about her. Anyway, Steven.
I'll be so my thought is when I watched that scene, I didn't believe that was a gunshot. I thought that was a body hitting metal. So a jump. I didn't believe it was a gunshot, but that was my only comment there.
Yeah, that was my read on the scene as well. I mean, we definitely get a gunshot later on with Kaji, but it is still a loud, sharp, metallic sound, which I took to be her leaping. But it could also just be that Gendo threw her off. I mean, it is still ambiguous in that sense to me that, like, there's, whether she was shot beforehand or not, it still could be murder. Yeah. And Naoko's, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, JC.
I was gonna say for Naoko's state of mind that she kind of like I think it was Steve mentioned that like shortly after Yui's death is moving into Gendo there, but to me it was a sound. It seemed like a relationship that had been going on ahead of Yui's death, and Naoko shortly after Gendo comes back and says like, "Hey, we're gonna start the Human Instrumentality Project." There's a scene where Naoko and Gendo are talking, and she says something like, "Oh, you're still just doing this for Yui. Essentially, this whole project is just for Yui's sake, right?" And I don't recall if he says anything, but she's already annoyed before Rei even enters the picture that Yui is still so prevalent in Gendo's mind, and so it's just this stress ladder almost where it's just here's another rung. Okay, he's still got this project going for Yui. Okay, now he's got another kid that looks exactly like Yui. Okay, now the kid is basically telling me that I'm an old hag and worthless, and Gendo doesn't even love me. So yeah, she just fully snaps at that point, which is a lot going on.
Okay, so Amanda agreed that maybe there was a clone thing. Tyler, did you have a theory of what Rei's parentage is? There's no history of her. There's
I mean, I fully think she's some clone or something like that, or she's not a man and a woman made. She was made in some lab or test tube somewhere.
Gendo says that he's got a friend who just needed someone to watch his kid. What?
That's what I was going to say. Why didn't you ask JC or I? They gave the answer already in the episode. Come on,
It was
guys.
subtle. You might have missed it. Yeah.
question asked and answered. Done.
Are her eyes always red? Am I just now picking up on that?
Yeah, her eyes have always been red.
I just don't think she makes eye contact a lot.
Like, I've seen hints of it before, and I just thought it was the lighting. But in this episode, I was like, oh. As a child, it's much more creepy.
But yes, while I was rewatching it the second time, I was like, well, maybe she's a clone, or like maybe she's just like some love child of Gendo and like Ritsuko's mom or somebody else. But yeah, clone makes the most sense. The other theory is that it's somehow Misato's child, either from Gendo or Kaji. Because we've learned Misato would have been at appropriate age, and you don't really see a lot of interaction between Misato and Rei.
All right.
Yeah.
I mean, Misato's not really part of NERV at this point, though, right? She's just off at school.
She's
Whatever,
at the
He is in Germany.
at the third branch in
Working
Germany.
for-
That's
yeah,
right.
which I thought was interesting because that's maybe an Asuka link.
Hmm.
Is that
Yep.
she was in Germany at some point. So
But don't worry though, she was broken up with Kaji then too.
they were, and then that was another line that I re-listened to and like, well, maybe Ritsuko was really the reason that she got broke up with, because it's always been implied that Ritsuko maybe had a thing with Kaji too.
There was definitely a line from Ritsuko to her mom saying like something like, "It's not that big of a deal. It's not that bad, or it's good, or something." It was just something that lends credence to your point there, Gary, of like, that was just an awfully weird way to phrase that.
We're jumping to Kaji or to Misato and Ritsuko's. There's a picture of the three of them, Misato, Ritsuko, and Kaji, like side by side, and it's in this like hand drawn, like pencil drawing style. And I've noticed that a couple other times in the last 2 episodes where it's not a full color drawing, it's like a hand sketched pencil image. And I don't know if that's, one layer deeper in the conspiracy of like something that like there's just this different art style that kind of comes out of nowhere occasionally. Tyler's laughing at me because I just want to make conspiracy a little
Yeah.
deeper.
It's a conspiracy for every small, minor detail change. It's a conspiracy for why they did that.
Yeah.
I was just thinking back to Shotzi's previous point about like whenever they don't animate a scene, that's because the budget ran out. Whenever they move to pencil drawings, the budget is empty.
They went back and like, shoot, we need some more stuff for this area. Well, we don't have enough to fully color it, so just pencil
Here's a-
drawings.
Jim,
Here's
your
a
kid's in drawing
storyboard.
lessons, right?
Just post that. Just post the
Yeah.
storyboard. It'll be fine. Any other? I guess we could jump to the Misato conversation. I don't know if we've hit all the characters intentionally or accidentally.
Which Misato conversation are you?
The phone call at the end.
Okay. So, yeah, we'll head to that, and then I've got a couple of points to just kind of circle. Well, actually, here. Let me hit my 2 points, Gary, then we'll close out this recording with jumping to the end of the episode. So I did want to say this was one of the Fuyutsuki... Gendo's second...
Fuyutsuki.
Mr.
Yeah,
F.
I keep looking at it, and I'm just like, okay, I can pronounce it. Then I go, nope. Gendo's second in command there is talking with Shinji's mom, Yui. They're in the 2003 segment, and he talks about like the third impact will occur 10 years from now. So that was kind of very foreboding to have mentioned. And I just wanted to mention that in 2004 is when we get to see Gendo with his glasses for the first time.
Finally learned he had bad eyesight.
Yeah, he's making the transition to evil commander.
Better to hide things behind them that way.
Yep.
Started sitting too close to screens in 2003 and only took a year. Poor guy.
I mean, we've seen pictures of him wearing sunglasses in the underground layer, and I'm like, who are you kidding? There's no sun
come on.
down there.
He
Come on,
wears his
guys, how are you
sunglasses
supposed
at
to-
night.
How are you supposed to have the glasses gleam off of your eyes if you don't wear them?
It's true. The computer light can't, menacingly reflect off of your sunglasses if you're not wearing them inside at night, inside of a base.
Okay, just thinking about the time jumps again. I couldn't mention it in the last episode, but in the last episode they talked about that they tried to pull a soul out of an Eva 10 years ago. And I was wondering if that was perhaps Shinji's mom? If that lines up with the timeline that like
I think that is a very fair
Shinji's
and
mom
accurate.
merges with an Eva and they tried to do it and they failed, and now they're trying to do it for Shinji. And Ritsuko knows this information, but no one around her at NERV knows that there's this familiar link to this process.
Yeah, that's my read on that situation completely. Is that that Yui goes into Unit 01, something happens, she becomes 400% synchronized, turns into primordial LCL soup, and sees that blue pulsing light, whatever is calling to her, and just goes to it. She doesn't have something pulling her out into the world at that point. And Naoko narrates that point after that like, oh, Yui was wiped from the face of the earth. I think either the spoken or subtitle says at that point. So it's not that she died necessarily. She just isn't really physically on this earth anymore. Steven?
Now that we've brought that point up, so Shinji's mom disappeared in Unit 01. The reason why Shinji is brought to NERV in the first place is because he has said he is the only pilot who can pilot Unit 01. He has had all these experiences in Unit 01 that really you can't explain, including things like smelling his mother in the last episode.
It defending him
It's
the
you
very
guys
first episode.
defending
And the
him,
delusion
going out of
train.
its way, delusion trains, all this sort of stuff. Is the reason why Shinji is the only one who can pilot Unit 01 and the reason why even the dummy pilot can't pilot Unit 01 because it's Shinji's mom in there?
A fair read. Gary says
See,
no.
Shaking his head.
Confused because I thought his mom was part of Adam and like that monster in the basement. So now I'm just, I don't know what to think anymore. Like,
I want to know why
I
she was
feel like
messing with Unit 01. Where was Unit 00 during this?
Fuck Unit 00. That thing's trash. Unit 01's where it's at.
Seems kind of random. They hadn't even like really used Unit 00 and she was just messing with Unit 01.
Good question.
that they're twins. They could be twins, and then Unit 01 is just differentiated because
Yeah.
it had somebody merge with it.
She walked in and was like, the purple one, I want that one.
Okay, Amanda, but let's be very honest here. That would be you if that ever happened.
Would walk in and choose the purple one? No.
I don't believe that even slightly.
Depends on the color options.
See,
a nice-
see,
A nice
see.
teal or like a glitter option maybe.
A glitter option. Oh, the worst.
Please, they're clearly subtle and camo painted to make sure that they blend in.
I don't care about the subtle that sort of stuff. I just care that it's glitter. It means
Hey,
it's going to
it's
be
just
shedding.
So,
It's just
okay,
as plausible a
Steven,
theory. Why is she?
Which
Why
Ava
is
are
she
you
on?
taking?
Yeah.
Are you taking Unit 2, the red one?
Oh hell yeah, I'm taking Unit 02. Unit 02 looks
Hypocrites?
awesome. I want red. I want to look like a freaking hot rod as I go down the street in my thing.
So it's fine for Steven, but for me.
No. I'm not judging the fact that you have an opinion. I'm judging your opinion. There's a difference.
Okay.
Thank you, Gary, for putting words to my reaction there, because I had no clue what to do. I really do want to know, like, is Unit 00 like, is it a prototype? Like,
They said
was it
it's a
somewhere
prototype.
else? Well, why isn't she messing with the prototype? Like, they kept Unit 01
Because you
in such
couldn't-
good condition that her son
'cause you
could use
couldn't-
it how many years later?
Because you couldn't pilot 01. No one else could pilot 01 until Shinji turned however old he turned. That's my read on it, is that
But
Shinji. Oh, sorry.
I was gonna say, I think Amanda's questioning why'd Shinji's mom go into Euro 01.
Unit 01, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, why?
So I guess
she
I don't
skipped
think
one.
I don't think they gave us a good answer on that. But like they say, the very first thing, Unit 00 is a prototype. So why would you have her grow into the prototype if you were going to test whatever the heck they're trying to test in there? Have her go into Unit 01.
They're still in the testing stages. You test prototypes. You don't put your best scientist in the not prototype when you haven't tested the prototype yet.
Sorry. Now that we're to this episode and we can talk about Shinji's mom, the last episode had something about like that was the day that I ran away from my parents. And so was it this day, the day that he's like looking through the glass and the accident happens and he runs away. Like, he's very, very tiny in this episode. Like, if he ran away, where the hell is he running away to? Like, your 5-year-old living on the streets?
Yeah, I don't think they answer that very well. Sorry, Tyler.
I was just going to kind of provide maybe a theory for why she went into Unit 01 and not the test unit there. It's because Unit 01 was a blank one, and then they talked about how when they do copies of it and everything like that, they need the human will for it, and she was providing the human will in their test. Whereas Unit 0 already had it because it was what they had gleaned from Adam there or whatever. Just a thought.
Could be.
But I suppose we can probably now jump to the end of the episode, Gary. So did you want to kick it off there?
That was my takeaway from the phone call, was like, out of all these things, like, I'm going to give you the gift. I'm going to tell you that what I should have told you 8 years ago, which is, I don't know if it's like, I have a secret or I love you, but whatever. I think it might be that he's already a spy 8 years ago, but who knows? But the takeaway of like a really sweet conversation is he's like, also, can somebody water my flowers? Like, Shinji knows where they're at. Like, so I think, in as much as I defend him, he's my hero of the revolution in this show. Is that at the end, like, he realizes that he did whatever he needed to figure out what was going on, but he still wants to, like, make sure the flowers survive the apocalypse.
Well, where does he want to be when the apocalypse actually takes place? They're watering his flowers.
I wrote down the effing watermelon. Like,
I have a comment
too.
here. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I know you're funny. Yeah, you're fine. You're funny. I have thought of that, like, because Steven's gone on trips before, been like, water my flowers. Do it every day. Do it twice a day. Make sure you water my flowers. And I'm like, they're just flowers. But you put all that effort into it. I kind of get it, honestly. It's
Tell me
it's
she
a
gets some
shame.
effing cactuses.
It is a shame because they die. Every single time I go on a trip, they die.
They're all there still.
Yes, because I haven't gone on a trip recently. Anyways, sorry.
Don't worry,
Not here
my
nor
wife
there.
blames me for killing the flowers in the house too. So
You're one of them. Sorry.
I was just going to add to at the end there, it's kind of funny how Shinji hears Masato crying, kind of peeks his head out and looks at her, and then goes back in his room because
Yes.
he doesn't know what to do, and it's the
That
only
was a
thing he
total-
can do.
his own
Oh, no.
issues going on, and he doesn't know what's going on. He doesn't know it's boy issues, like, but he's like, I got some other stuff I got to figure out. I just had a nightmare dream that I just woke up from, and I don't know how many weeks he's been out of the hospital, but
I mean, and to be fair, at that stage, Misato probably didn't want to see anyone, so he probably reacted best at that particular moment. Maybe not, in 10 minutes from now, but
we
Well,
don't
and
see Asuka.
Asuka.
you
Yeah,
do
that's
not see
true.
Asuka at all. And
She
I
is
think
familiar
that
to Kaji.
I do think that it is a very Shinji response to hide from the pain. He sees that happening and he doesn't know how to react. He's never been the best dealing with people when they like him or when they want him to be around. He doesn't understand that. So I don't think he's going to be able to digest what she's going through. I think he knows he has no ability to digest what she's going through. And so instead of looking for some different route that he might help with, he hides under a pillow, which is, it's sad, and it is an incredibly depressing way to end the show, or not the show, but the episode.
Is that the only appearance in this episode? Is that the very end? Like,
I believe
everything else
so.
is in flashback, isn't it? So
Mhm.
yeah,
I mean, other than baby and 2-year-old Shinji.
yeah.
No, yeah, he just comes back from his endeavor like, oh, whatever, what's up? I'm back in my room.
We don't see.
We don't talk about it.
Asuka this entire episode. We don't see Toji this entire episode. He apparently, last time we knew, maybe he doesn't have a leg. Like we just miss a lot of people in this episode for being in flashbacks. So
Oh, I think it's because it's providing us exactly what you wanted, Gary. It's providing us the context.
It's providing us what you
the
thought
history.
You wanted, and just asking more questions, saying double birds, I'm out. Like
you wanted the context and history. You didn't say you wanted it perfectly aligned for you.
we talked about Ritsuko's mom about the multi-computers, and it's like, yeah, we're gonna talk about her, and then we're gonna try and find out that maybe she tried to murder a child, and now she's gone. Ta-da! You learned something new, Tyler.
And then I was going to point out here too, going on my continued adventures of me paying attention to the credits and everything like that. The credits are blank for a good while there, and then it feels like the piano is either off a key or just down a chord there or something like that, because it is definitely not the normal ending music to it.
Oh, I actually need to check that out. I did not catch that at all.
Didn't you? The ending music is not even is a remake for Netflix anyway. Like
We
last time discussed that. Yeah, they have separate. It was like a jazz version of. It was a jazz song before that had different versions for every episode, and there are still some variations with credit songs in this Netflix version, or the redone version. But yeah, it is no longer the jazz song.
And then also too, I was going to say I'm glad I don't have epilepsy, because I was watching the next time on, and it is just flashing black background, white text at you the entire time, and I'm like, "Jeez, Louise."
Yeah, and maybe the next episode you're gonna get some Asuka background news, maybe, or maybe the show's just griefing us and gonna be about something else.
It's another song and dance number episode.
Yeah, I hope so. Honestly, best episode ever. Speaking of best episode ever, do we want to make a venture a guess on IMDb ratings, and which one is better? I'm gonna guess that the flashback episode 21, is the higher of the two rated, and 9.5. The other one that causes seizures, 8.7.
Okay, good. Thank God you didn't choose another. I'm going to say 9.5 and 9.3, but in the same order that you had them in. I couldn't guess the same as you, so I'm glad you went that far down.
Any other guesses, or is it just the Gary and Steven game?
I'm just going to guess the flashback episode was the higher rated one. I don't ever bother trying to assign numbers like that.
Yeah, I would agree.
I was gonna say, I will remind that previously our episodes of 18 and 19 were 9.0 and 9.3.
Mm.
9.5 still solid. The flashback episode's one of the best episodes so far.
Gary can't change his 8.6.
I'm gonna say 9.4 or 9.1. Flashback episode higher.
8.9. 8.9.
No. You already said 8.6. Cannot change it. Disallowed. I want the judges ruling on this.
Anyway.
Doesn't matter for anybody. Episode 20, Weaving a Story to Oral Stage, 8.6 out of 10. Episode 21, 8.6 out of 10.
Oh, wow.
People thought that they were both worse than episodes 19 and 20, and that they were the same in terms of quality.
Interesting.
Yeah, I personally agree that, I like the... gosh.
It starts ramping up so hard here. So well.
Yeah. I agree. There's great parts to both of these.
Yeah. But I thought that they were going somewhere. Like the last episode, the previous two episodes had like some robot fights, and I don't.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is.
Yeah.
Didn't have enough Pacific Rim in it.
I mean, I think whenever we were talking about it with Steven trying to figure out an episode list, I was like, episode 19 is like the episode we need to kind of make sure that we have a key moment around, because that Unit 1 going berserk is a major highlight from the series. So yeah, I wanted to be sure. Like, that's, of the ones we've seen, I'd say that's still the highest one for me.
And then speaking of episodes, did we make a decision there, JC? What are we watching here
I
next
think
time?
everyone froze on my screen.
Did.
Oh, too bad. Steven can't hear us anymore.
Bye.
So yeah, we did end up having a discussion to slim it down. We had 3 episodes on the next docket, but these episodes have been getting long here already. So we're going to trim it down to 2. Episode 22, Don't Be, or Staying Human. And episode 23, Ray 3, or Tears.
Ooh,
So sounds like some good stuff ahead.
totally.
Nice cheery episodes. This
Very,
is gonna be the
very
beach
happy.
episode coming up.
Nothing but positivity. Nothing but
Yeah,
positivity.
Tears can be happy. I have happy tears all the time. It's okay to cry.
All right. Well, on that note, we will go ahead and end this episode here. We want to thank everybody for listening. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen.
Bye.